is Shakuma. Two receivers to the left side. As Sterner stumbles and falls, fumbles the football. It's been recovered by Tennessee at the 43-yard line. Sterner comes out of there, stumbles, lays the ball down, and Billy Ratliff is on top of it to recover at the 43-yard line. What else can happen, Bill, to Arkansas? Travis Henry through the left side. This is Henry with the football. He has it at the 40. He's down to the 35. He's down to the 30 and is tackled at the 28-yard line. Again, the give goes to Henry through the left side. He's at the 25. He's at the 20. He's to the outside to the 15, and he is out of bounds as he struggles down to the 13-yard line. This will be Travis Henry spinning, driving, fighting, carries the ball down to the 2-yard line. Tennessee 8-0, ranked number 1 in the country, but that is not all that important at this point. What is important is 67 seconds and 3 yards. They need to go to Henry. This will be Martin. This will be Henry. He dives. Give him 6. That's all. Touchdown, Tennessee. This football game is...
Try to be best, because you're only a man in a man's
Michael Wallace, one part of the Touchback podcast. Tonight we have a special guest on, Mr. Billy Ratliff. Billy, how you doing?
Hey, I'm great, man. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Thanks for taking time and having us on. As Tennessee was playing, of course, this is Arkansas week. And when we thought about getting a guest, I call it, you know, there's a lot of course, great plays in Tennessee history and memorable, the most memorable. I call it the most significant play in Tennessee football history.
Oh, wow.
The Arkansas game, and we can get into that in a little bit. Whoops, dropped the phone over here. We can get into that in a little bit, but kind of give Tennessee fans an update on what you're doing now, man.
Well, I'm out of the workforce now. I'm full-time doing my podcast here with Volunteer Roadshow. I've started doing it about 2.5 years with my partner. He called me out of the blue, kind of like what you guys did here on Facebook Messenger, and he did the same thing. He sent me a couple of messages over a process of maybe 7 years.
Yeah.
And it was the same message every time, but I never did get the message until I found out what filtered messages were. And when I said I had like hundreds of messages over there, I was like, man, I felt bad because I had fans come up to me saying, did you get my message? I was like, I don't have your phone number. But they was talking about Messenger. And then once I got his message and, you know, he was talking about the same things I wanted to do and just be yourself and just let fans know that you're having fun and doing great things in the community and with everything. And when he brought me on, it was just like, thank you, because you got me out of my funk. I'm in a clouded place. I'm just sitting in the house and just kicking up kids' tail in video games and stuff like that. And so I had to get out of that there so the kids can have fun without me, daddy, kicking their tails.
Are you living in the East Tennessee, Chattanooga area?
Well, I just moved back to Knoxville just about a year ago in October.
Okay.
I'm back here. I'm not going anywhere, man. I'm here for good.
Good. So you get to be around a lot. We're working for the folks that don't listen to your podcast. How can they find you on your podcast?
You can catch me on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter at volunteerroadshow.com or just Volunteer Roadshow.
All right. So we'll go back in time a little bit. You're from Magnolia, Mississippi, correct?
Magnolia, Mississippi.
That's down south. Is that 55 going toward Hammond, Louisiana?
That's it. 55 south.
Hammond, America. It's down there on the border, isn't it?
It's way down there, man. I tell everybody, man, I'm about an hour, 15, 20 minutes from New Orleans. So that's where pretty much most of my family is from, is New Orleans. So.
Okay. Yeah. Talk us a little bit, if you don't mind, about the recruiting process. How did you end up at choosing Tennessee? What made you choose Tennessee and that type of thing?
There was a lot of things that went into it. You know, the Mannings had a little bit to go with it because of their being from New Orleans. My family was from New Orleans, and I had family members that played with the Saints and stuff like that. And, you know, being a ball boy down there at times, and it just came back. And when my coaches in high school were telling me things like championships and stuff, and that's all I ever thought about because I never really lost games when I played sports in high school, little league, and stuff like that. So he was telling me, if you want to win and continue that tradition, you might want to go play with that Manning kid. I think I'm like, okay, being a country boy, never been away from Mississippi or Louisiana. And the funny part about it is Arkansas was the first school that I actually was going to take an official visit to.
Oh, wow.
The situation came down to Arkansas sending a plane down to Fernwood, Mississippi at a small airport. And they sent what I call as a Gilligan Island airplane. And I'm not sure if you guys remember Gilligan Island where they always built the plane and they was hit the propellers, boom, and it always crashed or something. And so that was the first plane I ever seen, the first plane I was getting ready to get on. And when I saw the plane, I told my mom, I looked back and I said, Mom, I can't do it. I'm not getting on that plane. And she said, baby, I know you're not, so let's go. Word got back to Tennessee. Coach Randy Sanders, he found out about I wasn't getting on this plane because it was a rinky dink, I guess. I mean, if it's a plane, it's big time, but it was a Gilligan Island. And Coach Sanders came down to Fernwood. He sent the plane, and then when I got there to the airport this time, man, when I say you see this plane, man, it was most definitely a UFO. It was an unidentified object, man. I was like, man, what is that? I've never seen anything like that before. And they called this plane the Starship. Man, this thing was chromed out, black, red, orange, and it was just the best thing ever. And I get on, I'm the only kid that's on it when he picked me up. And I didn't even know they was gonna be making other stops and stuff. And I know we picked up like Antron Peebles, Fernando Bryant, and all those guys. And once I got to Tennessee, man, I mean the kids, the guys are my teammates. Basically, it made me feel like I was at home. I could tell you each player that I played with remind me of one of my teammates back in high school. And they made me feel comfortable. And once I got to that level, I mean, and I knew that I would like it just because of these guys, it made it easy for me to take make that decision because some of the other schools I went to, it was just a straight no.
Yeah. So who was some of the guys in your recruiting class? So was that 96, I guess? Were you the recruiting class?
95, the best recruiting class to come through Tennessee.
Yeah. A couple of names out there that you signed with.
Oh man, we had a lot of guys on that team. We had Chad Clifton, Phyllis Price, Al Wilson, Jermaine Copeland, Sean Bryson, Philip Crosby, and believe it or not, Lennon Little was part of that class too because he had just came out of JUCO to make that class even better. We had a lot of guys, man. I mean, Antron Peebles, Ian Martin. You had Stephen Kelly, Brian Darden.
I had it written down to ask you about Brian Darden because I thought you guys were going to be close to the same year coming out.
We were, man. I mean, Brian Darden, oh gosh, man. I wish times would change back then the way the systems were created for a player like Brian, because Brian was Alvin Kamara today.
Yeah, that's what you read and you hear people say is he was the back really that year.
And I played against him in high school. I mean, he'll tell you he didn't do that against me in high school.
What is he? Does he live in Mississippi now?
Actually, Brian is in Dallas, Texas. He is working for Go's Gym. He's one of the top personal trainers in the country right now.
Oh wow, terrific!
If you see him, you'll see why he is. I mean, he still looks identical to what he was in college. He's a freak of nature.
Yeah, you were throwing out some guys from Murfreesboro, Riverdale, Peebles, and what was the defensive back? Griffin. Gerald was.
Yeah, Fernando Bryant.
Fernando Bryant, and then there was
Gerald Griffin.
Yeah.
Had quite a few that came from Riverdale over there.
Absolutely, that's when they got it rolling. All right, so when you get to Tennessee, and some people may not know, but back then, it seemed to me like defensive linemen wore number 50s and 60s. Backs, linebackers were 20s, 30s, and 40s. How did you end up, which now it's a thing, you'll see single digits on defensive linemen. Well, I guess Leonard Little were number 1. How did you choose number 40? Was that your number, or how did that come about?
Well, I'll tell you this here. Back then, we didn't have options to choose what numbers we wanted. It was it was an alphabetical order based on when it was time to get your jersey number. Because you think about Peerless Price was 37, his last name was P, and then it was my turn with number 40 was available. So I got 40. Plus, I came in as a middle linebacker.
Gotcha. Okay, that's what I was getting at. I thought it might have been a chance. I didn't know if you were fullback, middle linebacker, but okay.
Yep, I was a middle linebacker, tight end slash in high school, and that's how I ended up with that number. I had no say so of what number I had, and that's the part that I wish they get back to.
Yeah, because now it's almost like it's a part of the recruiting process. I would guess is they'll look on their roster, which now, and this is a little off topic, but it bothers me watching games. Is that so many guys wear duplicate numbers? And I know they can't be on the field at the same time, but you're watching the game. There's number 2 playing defense, and then number 2 makes a tackle on special teams. Just as a fan watching it, that wasn't a thing as much when you played, was it?
That wasn't a thing at all, man. If you wanted to take my number, you was going to take that number at Florida, Alabama, Georgia, or someone else. Because I'm going to tell coach, hey, coach, this kid talking about he want number 40.
Yeah. Yeah.
We don't need him. He's already trying to break the crowd up already. It was that type of situation, man. We've had that situation now where, what was the kid named Steve Shipp that went to Florida? And he came in and he was Jermaine Copeland's recruit. And he told Jermaine that he was going to take number 6. Hey, well, we know what happened with him. He ended up going to Florida. We dropped him off back at the hotel, and we left him, and we used his money and had a good time.
Who were some of the recruits that you hosted when you were in Austin?
I never did like having recruits because I was a little too honest. I didn't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But one of my main recruits was Roger Alexander. Roger Alexander was one of the prize recruits that they really wanted, man. He was a versatile kid where he can play outside linebacker, he can play defensive end, he can do a lot of things. And if you ever watched him play, he had a motor out of this world. I didn't really care to have recruits. I like to be, how would I say this? I was always the guy that was the crowd controls over all the recruits, or whoever took the recruits out. Because you never know what these kids do, man. When they come to campus and they get all these women and they don't know how to take that stuff and they take it wrong. And, you have a beautiful woman trying to hug you and not kiss you now. And they take advantage, and I have to do the crowd control.
Yeah. And those weekend visits get fun. Another side story to that was I was coaching baseball at East Mississippi Community College in Scuba, Mississippi.
I know where that's at.
Yeah.
Because see, my son, he went to Northwest Mississippi.
Okay. Yeah. No,
over there.
Is that Senatobia?
Yep. That's where it's at.
Yeah, we played them in baseball, of course, but it was one of Dooley's years where they had a defensive lineman, Nico Autry, and a defensive tackle that ended up going to Florida, Damian Jacobs.
Mm-hmm.
They could not get a ride to Knoxville that weekend for the visit. And I got word that somebody called and said they couldn't get a ride. And I said, well, yes, they can. I went over and told the guy that was over our recruiting vehicles. I said, I got to go recruiting this weekend in Knoxville. I went and signed out on a car. I went and told those fellas, I said, we're on our way to Knoxville, man. And I took them up, and those guys had a great time that weekend. But I'll never forget, I just went by and told them, I said, y'all are with me, let's go. And we left and went to Knoxville that weekend. And I think they had a large time. They slept on the way back on Sunday. So Knoxville treated them right. And I think they probably both, we can't get into it really, but I think the time they both verbally committed, but then ended up, it was Dooley's last year, and then one went to Florida and one went to Mississippi State. But yeah, they got to telling some good stories on the way back. And I wrote down this because this means a lot to me as a player for the team I love. and I didn't really know the extent of them until I started researching this, is the amount of injuries you played through during your time at Tennessee.
Yes.
It was, you had your freshman year, I believe.
Mhm.
And then was it your sophomore year? Nick, talk a little bit about what are all the injuries you had to play through and play with during your time at Tennessee.
Well, when I got to Tennessee, I got injured. Well, I was pretty much already injured. I had shin splints, basically for playing basketball, dunking, and coming off and all that stuff, and running up and down the court. The shin splints caught up with me, and I get to campus, and we go through 2-a-days, and I'm practicing with the linebackers. I'm doing everything, doing W drills and all these things here, and I go and do the bags, and I come up, and I'm like, something's not right. And it felt like my shin, my tibia was about to break in half. It was like it was on the edge. And the pain that I had, I mean, they just had to take me off the field. And I'm like, okay, I'm good. Just give me a brace. and and then did x-rays and realized it was a fracture. And they did a good job of getting me back on the field. I've had several injuries there. My sophomore year, would have been, let's see, would have been 96. I tore my knee up. I had a ACL, which was the knee that I had tore up in high school and had to get that repaired. Then it would have been, actually would have been my red shirt sophomore year is when I injured my neck. Basically ended up calling it a spinal contusion. It was a very tough situation. And of course, athletes, we don't think about our bodies. We just want to get back out there and field and play. And of course, I did come back and play, skipped the game and came back and played against Alabama and actually played my best game of my career against them that year. Junior year, I got through healthy and we won a national championship. And that was a thing I always told my coaches. I said, Coach, oh man, hey, if I'm healthy, chances of winning is 100%, Coach. So if you can keep me healthy and I stay healthy, and they used to do some things to keep me healthy, man. I didn't practice as much as everybody else did. I did mostly individual drills or the drills when we going through the team stuff. And I just worked out a lot. I ran a lot, conditioning a lot. I don't wish that workout on anybody in college football. You're talking about 600 reps compared to your teammates' 150 reps. And then my senior year is when I had my career-ending injury where I broke my ankle, had nerve damage, and never came back from that because of the extensive stuff I had to go through with the nerves. And to this day, I mean, I still have some issues with it as far as like pain wise, but it doesn't bother me because I know how to cope with it. It hasn't slowed me down as much. I mean, I still have people still trying to try me and do things, especially like my partner. He has a little wager going on with weight loss and stuff, and I'm kicking his butt right now. It's amazing. After I finished ball, I mean, I got up to almost 335 pounds, and it was tough. And today I'm doing better now. I mean, it's I haven't had an injury then. I've had some minor things to clean up things, and I'm doing good now.
And I remember, you don't want to talk a lot about it, but I remember the injury your senior year against Auburn. The first play of the game, I believe Deion Grant intercepted for a touchdown.
Mhm.
The place is rocking. And then the second drive, it was like maybe the second, correct me if I'm wrong, second or third play of the second drive. But it was like the atmosphere that night was rolling. And Tennessee, I believe Florida had gotten beat earlier that day.
Mhm.
And the place, but it was like when you got injured, it was, during a moment when the whole crowd and everybody was up. It was early in the game, wasn't it?
It was. I mean, I had made a couple plays right then, and it was just a freak injury where someone fell on the back of my ankle, and I didn't think it was that bad because I had never been like injured with my ankles and stuff. I just thought it was as a sprain, and I realized it was a lot worse when I got to the sideline because when I took that shoe off, it ballooned so big. It just went boom. I mean, they, of course, we say, hey, tape it up. Let's get back. and, and of course, they try to tape it up and the swelling. You know when you have that injury where it has that heartbeat in it, where it's just feels like a razor blade cutting you with needles stinging and all that. And I'm like, just give me some for pain. And I remember them giving me some Aleve. I said, man, this is not gonna get it. And that's when I knew it was really bad, when the orthopedic came over to me. And anytime the orthopedic come over to you and he does that quick shake, like he just wiggle it just a little bit, and they just know exactly something wrong. And I remember Dr. Mathians and Dr. Yeomans looked me dead in my eye and said, Billy, Billy, Billy. And of course, no one knew that I was injured that bad, because I told them, hey, you're not going to carry me off this field, letting this crowd see me, because I'm not going to put no fingers in the air. I'm saying I'm okay, because if you carry me off the field, I'm going to tell everybody I'm not okay. I'm not going to put the thumbs up or anything like that. So they took me through the secret lab, or these compartments through the Neyland Stadium I had never been through before in my life. It was like the Secret Service tunnels. And they took one turn, another turn. Next thing you know, we was coming through the locker room into the medical department, and they did this little thing. And of course, Dr. Matins told me that it's bad. It was so bad that they had to rush me to do emergency surgery that night.
Wow. And then was it your sophomore year? You said the neck injury, or redshirt sophomore year?
That would have been my redshirt sophomore year. Yes.
When there was a story about Leonard Little maybe helping you up during practice.
Yes. That situation is probably the reason why I'm walking today. It was that week we was getting ready to play Ole Miss. And we were doing what's called goal line drill, where you stick your fingers in the ground and stay as low as possible. And I just had a freak situation where my head hit one of my teammates' knee, and I couldn't move. And I remember laying there for like a second or whatever, and I'm just like, man, I can't move. What's going on? And of course, all my teammates know me. I'm never laying on the ground. I'm either laughing, joking, or doing all these things. And Leonard comes over. He's like, they called my name. My nickname was Big Worm. He's like, Big Worm, man, get up, man. Let's go, baby. Let's go. And he kind of picked me up like that and just let me go, because the medical staff was like, no, don't touch him, don't touch him, don't touch him. And he kind of realigned my spinal cord when he did that. So basically, the way the doctor said, if I would have stayed like that a little bit longer, and the spinal cord would have been, how I would say, like a hose pipe being tied up where the water's not coming out, the fluid not going through, for 5-6 more seconds, I could have been paralyzed for the rest of my life. But I was paralyzed for about, I'm gonna say 47 hours. And when I say when I first did it, I thought it was funny, because I'd never been injured. I'm hurt, but I've never been through this here. I've never been in an ambulance before, and I remember the ambulance coming from a distance, and this was the first time that the coaches stopped everything. Normally, they say move it down 15, and we'll keep going, and the medical staff take care of it. But I knew it was serious when Peyton Manning was standing over me, looking at me. This was the offensive guys way on the other side of the field. And for those guys to come over there, that's when I knew it was serious. And when I got in that ambulance, and oh man, Dr. Ivan, he's there, he's crying. I'm laughing. I'm like, Doc, what you crying for, man? I'm the one that's hurt. He's like, Billy, this is serious, man. I mean, you're paralyzed right now. And I'm like, hold on, paralyzed. And it hit me when I got into the emergency room, and they threw me on the table. They cut my helmet off with the saw and everything. They cut my pants off. They had me butt naked. I'm like, oh man, it's cold in here. And of course, I just remembered. I mean, these are things that I remember, though. And it's funny that I'm saying this now, because I just remember the part where they was doing the catheter, and I'm like, "Oh, that hurts," or whatever. And then she said, "You can't feel that, baby." I'm like, "Okay." And that's when I knew it was serious, man, because they put this neck thing on me, and I mean, I couldn't move or anything. I mean, you got these pins on my head and stuff, and all I can do, man, was just pray, 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 hoping that something move. I mean, this whole time I'm just trying to clench my fingers and all these things. And 47 hours later, I remember a twitch in my pinky finger on my right hand. And when I say I'm screaming at the top of my lungs, nurse, nurse. And that's all I did, just my pinky finger. It was all moving. Nothing else was moving. But 2 hours later, everything started moving. My toes started getting sensation back. I mean, I'm acting, of course, I'm trying to dip and rip like I'm about to get back on the field and stuff. I'm like, and that's when Coach, I had Miss Jackson, Miss Judy Jackson, she was up there with me. And because my family was on their way up, and Miss Jackson was in there with me. And that was crowd control too. So you can imagine all the people that was saying it was my family trying to get in there.
Yeah.
It was a tough situation.
Now, how long? And and I got a little emotional hearing you go into detail about that story because I, of course, did not know, the extent of that. How long were you out for?
I was out for, let's see, the next game where I was a total of 3 games.
3 games and came back and played. So within a month, you go from not being able to move for 48 hours to to playing, which is pretty remarkable. And that's wow. That is actually that you went through that. Thank you for sharing that story in the detail with us on that. Now, as you go into now, it was 97. You
Yeah,
say 97?
97.
Oh no! Did you come back for the Memphis game?
That's the first time starting.
He was down. If they ever replay, he was down.
Yeah. But hold on, so hold on, let's back up a little bit because that's 96.
Okay, that's 96. That's right.
96. So
96. That's right.
I'm starting like the game before that we played South Carolina.
Mhm.
And I'm playing, this is my my redshirt freshman year. And this is when Coach Foreman gave me the speech where I moved from linebacker to D line. It's like, I need to get my best 11 guys out there. And I feel like you're one of our best 11. And of course, when I get out there on the practice field in the meeting room, and I wasn't the best 11 because they got me behind number 1. They got me behind Leonard Little. But they had a bunch of packages where I'm out there on the field at the same time. But South Carolina game, that's when Leonard tore his ACL that year in 96. And now I'm the starting defensive end. I go in the next play, I tear my ACL. Now, I didn't tell anybody I tore my ACL now. I'm still playing. Uh, I'm playing against one of the best offensive linemen that year, and he was still too slow. It just was mixed matches playing a linebacker against a offensive tackle. And being at my size, I'm still running and moving the way I was. And of course, being a knucklehead, should have told the medical staff I tore my knee up. But I didn't. I said, hey, I'm a freshman, man. I'm starved, man. My family get to see me on TV. Man, I got me one of those old school knee braces, that little rubber knee brace, the basketball knee brace with the hole in it. No support whatsoever. And I go out, this is Memphis. Memphis wasn't a great team. They was just, offensively, they was not going to score on us. If they did, it was going to be what happened. Offense gave it to them. And I'm starting that year. And of course, the next game, believe it or not, we playing against the Razorbacks. Actually, no, I take it back. Next game was homecoming. Homecoming. We played homecoming. That was an easy game. I got to wait. And then the next game was Arkansas. Playing against Arkansas. Now I got a torn ACL now. And I'm playing. I made a couple of tackles for loss. I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And, those Razorbacks typically have an offensive line about 330 or better. And these guys, I mean, they're putting their hands on me and they're driving me. And of course, I mean, I don't feel like they can block me, but when you pushing 700 pounds and you got a to ACL, it's a big toll on you. And I took myself out the game. I went to the sideline. I told the mega stuff, I can't do it no more. Hey, this thing hurts so bad. And they're like, what do you mean? What happened? I said, I think my knee is messed up. They said, what you mean you didn't do anything? Yeah, I did this 2-3 games ago. And of course, that following Monday, we get in meetings and Coach Chavers, he's asking me questions like, Worm, I mean, when did you get hurt or whatever? And of course, I told him when I got hurt. I said, you remember when I went in right after Leonard Little got hurt? The next play, I got hurt. He said, I didn't see anything. You didn't get hit or anything. I said, no, I didn't. I was jogging to the play, and I think I stuck my foot in a hole, and my knee just gave. I remember all of it. And it's like, and they went back, rewound it, and they saw it. They was like, oh my God, he did. And it's like, how did he continue to play then? And then, of course, I'm mad because I got to wait 3-4 weeks before I have surgery. They have me doing all this rehab. I'm like, okay, so am I have surgery or not? If I'm not, let me just practice. Well, they wouldn't let me practice. I couldn't do anything. So guess what I did? I went over to the old Stokely and I just started practicing with the basketball team. I'm playing with those guys, I knew I shouldn't have been doing it, but hey, I was trying to stay in shape just in case I come back and make a comeback. I'm out there killing these guys, man, dunking on them and all that stuff. And they think I'm just somebody off the street that they play. And the coaches, come to find out, told my coach, say, man, there's this guy that's on your team that I think he should come out and play for us. Is he a walk on or whatever? And of course, I got cursed out. I got chewed out by my coaches, the medical staff, and everything. But I just couldn't sit still, man. I'm still like that to this day, man. I like to have fun.
Now, who got on you the most about that? Was that about Chavis, or did you have to sit down with Coach Fulmer on that one?
All of the above, man. I'm talking to medical staff, Coach Fulmer, Coach Chavis, Coach Brooks, Coach Cardwell, everybody, man, because I guess I didn't know that I was good, man. I didn't know that it was like that. I didn't understand it. All I was doing was making plays. Like now when I think about it, I'm go back and say, oh my God, I guess I was. I didn't know that. All I did, I thought I was just doing my job. How the times have changed. Like, if I knew how the things were back then, like I should have left my junior year and went and tried to go get some money, I guess. But I wasn't thinking like that because back then, this here what was told to you. It's like, hey, you got to wait till you turn. You ain't got enough hours to go to the league yet, baby. You got at least another year to get that situation where you can go and handle grown men like that. And that's the way it was. You had to wait till your turn. Your senior year, you get off, they check you out, then you go to the pros.
Yeah. So you go into 98, and what is amazing about that team was so many. You got South Carolina game, Syracuse game. You win, Hall kicks the field goal. Then, of course, the Florida game. And Georgia was picked to beat you guys that year at Georgia, Quincy Carter, and then it was 22-0, bam. To go dominate Auburn on the road, and all this momentum is building. Of course, you take care of Alabama, which is what Tennessee did during that time. And then I was at the Arkansas game, and I remember pregame, I remember it raining. Pregame, there was a drizzly,
yes,
gloomy November East Tennessee day. They come in number 7. Tennessee's number 1. They jump out to a lead in the first half. I want to say with 21-6. What was maybe a halftime? 21-10 at half.
Yeah, it went up at 21-10 at halftime.
21-10 at half, and then the second half cut it to 24-20. Then they snapped the ball through the end zone, correct? Make it 24-22.
That's true.
Tennessee gets the ball back. They have a fourth down, and there's an incomplete pass from T. Martin to, I believe, Peerless Price with under 2 minutes left. Number one in the nation. You kind of got over the Florida thing. You've gone this far. You're number one in the country, and then you're looking at the loss. 24-22, under 2 minutes left. Incomplete pass. They're coming off the field. Take over from there. What happened?
Well, you got to think about this here, man. I mean, we're getting beat by Arkansas, and we got someone on the sideline that's chewing us out, and it wasn't the coach, man. It was Mr. Al Wilson, man. I mean, he's over there because, he had messed his shoulder up and he couldn't play the rest of the game. So he's over there being pretty much Coach Chavis. And with Al, man, he had a chip on his shoulder, man. The fact that, we're Tennessee, everybody already against us. We lost so many players. But this particular game, though, we're playing against Arkansas. And what I mean by that is we playing against a stat team. And a stat team to us would be, we're going to pad our stats. We're going to get tackles for loss. We're going to get interceptions. We're going to do all these things against these guys because this is Arkansas. There's not one team in this conference that we're worrying about but the Gators. Arkansas was just another team that we just playing. We're going to get a win. Man, whoo. I remember that situation where T threw the incomplete. And, of course, coach is already telling you to get ready to go on this in case they don't get it. And, of course, Al is still chewing us out. We got to make something happen. We got to do this. I mean, Darwin, he's like, man, we got to make something happen, man. And, of course, me in my mind, I mean, I'm not a loser. I have no such thing as a loser mentality in my body. I don't care what it is. We can have a spitball contest. I'm going to tell you, you already lost before you showed up. And I remember this situation when we get ready to go out there and I see T come off. He's on his way off, and I can tell he's defeated. He's like, we lost. And in my mind, I'm always using reverse psychology, regardless of what the situation is, trying to get in your head or whatever. But at this time, I'm in my own head saying, hey, we're going to win this game. I got this. I'm not worrying about nothing. I'm going to go out here and do my thing and whatever. And then I look at TA, don't worry about it, man. We're going to get this ball back. Keep your helmet on, baby. And of course, I go out there, but now I'm going against probably the number one offensive lineman in the country. and I tell him that's going to happen. And little that people know that Brandon Burrsworth, offensive guard, he was drafted by the coach. This guy manhandled me this whole game. I think I have made maybe about 4 or 5 stingers that game. And when I say I had 0 stats up into that situation, I had nothing. No tackle for loss, no breathing on that offense, no running back, no nothing, anything. But this particular play, I don't know if he took the play off, but in my head, I'm thinking I'm getting ready to run a 40-yard dash to the end zone. If I do that and I get in your chest, I'm going to make something happen. I'm not trying to use no technique. I'm just going to use my hands and drive you straight through that goalpost. And, of course, that first down, I make a play, tackle for loss. Oh, snaps. BB takes a play off. And, of course, I'm talking noise to him, but I really wasn't because I was conserving energy. Next play, I'm like, man, I'm gonna jump it. I'm gonna get it. I know he don't think I know the snap count, but I got it. So I see him. I see him to the left. I hear him saying it's a cadence, and I just pow. I'm telling you now, when I say I think I would have run a 4.340 right there, baby. And man, and then I push Brandon, open up his shoulders, textbook like Reggie White always preached. And it happened. Pushed him, he trips. and I see the ball laying there. I'm like, oh, I mean, it was laying there forever, man. I mean, I promise it looked like it was there for days. It was slow motion. And of course, most players, they're thinking about picking it up and run it. Not me. I'm trying to get this ball back because I just told somebody I'm going to get this ball back. And I was doing it. And it happened. I jumped on the ball, got the ball, ran to the sideline. And that's when Cozy Coleman said, he looked at me in my eyes and he said, I got you. and I knew what he meant by that, though, because all week, the game plan was to run it down the Razorback's throat because their defensive line averaged 240 all the way across. We averaged 336 pounds. And when I say they went out there and did what we should have did the whole game, it was nothing they can do to stop Travis Hammond. I don't care if Travis Stevens was in the game. There was nothing no one can do to stop those guys. And I keep telling y'all, lucky Jamal Lewis wasn't back there. But it ended up happening, man. We ended up going down and driving it in, and we won that game, and we said we wasn't going to look back after that. We wasn't going to let anyone get that close to us again.
I was there, and I think it's PP in the corner of the end zone with my buddy John Prince. We're high school seniors at the time, and everybody's got the story of where you were at and what you were doing during that play. And behind us was this guy. At the time, he seemed like he was about 400 pounds, and he had the Duck Dynasty beard. All I remember was when you made the play and recovered the fumble, I just remember being in his arms. The guy had picked me up and was slinging me around, celebrating. He was slinging me around like a rag doll, man. And doing that, and it's one of the first times in my life I was moved to tears for joy. Right. The happiness that it brought, tears, because you'd waited kind of your whole life for, hey, you get over Florida, you're number one, win a national championship, here it is, and then boom, you're down 24-22 when you may have, well, nobody else other than who was on that sideline thought they were going to win the game when we didn't get the fourth down. Tennessee didn't get the fourth down. And you made that, and I'd always heard that you said that, hey, keep your helmet on, and then, which that was awesome, gave me chills when you said Cozy Coleman looked at you and said, I got you.
And they had me, man, because Cozy, and let me tell you about Cozy now. He is probably the best offensive lineman I actually really played against, period. As my teammate. That's who I practice against every day. So when we played against everybody else, it was easy because I already got someone that's an All-American is a pro guy already across from me. And it was, practices was tough. Games were easy.
Yeah. And that's where, and I'll get into a little bit about what Pruitt has to do, and he's got to have time to do it, is build up the depth, of course, to play. And you would know better than anybody that you have to have that depth. So when you go live, if you go one-on-one in practice, you're getting better.
Yes.
That's why Georgia and Alabama, they're lining up against each other in practice all week. And probably like you guys were, hey, the guy on the other field on the other team on Saturday is not near as good what you saw, this week.
That's that.
And that's what he's got to have time to get that and build that up. You go to, I'm glad you mentioned Brendan Bullsworth. And I would say anybody that is listening to this podcast, by the way, if you are, give us a like, subscribe, all that Touchback podcast. We cover college football. We get into some wrestling, a little bit of baseball and a little bit of everything. But for those of you listening, if you haven't seen the movie called Greater, watch it. Just do yourself a favor and watch it.
Yes.
The story about that man and the kind of kid he was and the kind of character he had, it's incredible. It really is. And, that I highly recommend watching that movie. And he was really, really good. Like you said, he was All-American, correct?
He was, man. And it's truly amazing, a guy like Brandon, walked on and he did everything it took to become the greatest offensive lineman that he can be.
Mhm.
And when his coaches realized what they had, when Coach Nutt took it to his ability to look at Brandon and becoming a leader. And Brandon was, he was just special, man. I mean, you can just tell. I mean, especially watching the movie. I know the movie don't give you everything, but it is a great inspiration of how it was. Brandon, he didn't understand slow or this way. Everything was full speed. He wanted to be the best at everything he wanted to be. And that's what everyone should want to be. I don't care what if it's sports, life, general. If you watch this movie and you don't get inspired, man, I'm telling you, I still get chills when I watch it though. I get to a certain part of the movie and I have to stop watching it because I get that emotional. And especially now, I'm gonna tell you,
You got a connection to that to him like no other. Yeah.
because like there's a part in the movie that really gets me hyped up too because they do one of my teammates a little bit dirty in the movie. Well, they run over my boy Al Wilson. And I know they had to do that to one of the best players on the field because it's a movie. But guys, when y'all watch that movie, they didn't do my boy like that. Because if they'd have did him like that, I would have sicked the dogs on him.
Not too many did that to Al Wilson at all. That's
Oh no, man. But it's a great movie. I mean, I think everybody should watch it. I don't care what age you are, you will love it.
we had an episode of our top football movies, and that was one of the ones I mentioned. That if anybody had not seen it, to
Yes.
see it. Now, when I thought of you, when you were nice enough to agree to come on with us, I made sure I wanted to bring up him, and I'm glad you did because what a great inspiration. Walk on, dreams of playing for the Hogs. Does everything right, and it is very very inspirational. Well, the next thing I had written down to ask you about is to kind of get ready to close out here, and you've already answered, so we got to talk about. So, what was Al Wilson truly like? but you've answered that. He got. I met him a couple years ago before a game, and I probably shouldn't say this, but I met him for a game, and I went up to him and I said, "Look, they got all this stuff named after people." I looked around. I said, "You're the greatest ball ever." I get to him. He was my guy when I was in high school. Al Wilson was it, man. But to what a little bit elaborate on what he like, just
And see, Al was a great teammate, man. Great. I knew Al was gonna be special, man. Like our freshman year, man. Like, well, my redshirt freshman year the year that we lost against Memphis. And at halftime, that's when everybody realized that Al was gonna be something special. When you can chew out the Heisman Trophy quarterback as a freshman and tell your head coach to leave me alone. I'm talking to my teammate with a straight face, and your head coach look at you and say, "Bye, Felicia. You got this." That's when we all knew Al was gonna be special, man. But Al, he was always like that, man. He had nothing less than 150%. I don't care if he had a broke shoulder, he'll still be out there trying to do something. It's that mentality that he had, that a no lose situation. I mean, you're talking about a kid from Jackson, Tennessee, and people don't realize that this guy was a strong safety and quarterback in high school.
like Nebraska, Notre Dame, and Tennessee were final three, and like Nebraska wanted to play running back, Notre Dame safety, and Tennessee linebacker, and he could have went to, that was the three programs of the '90s.
Yes.
Yeah.
And Al, he'll say to this day, man, he's like, I'm glad I went to Tennessee because I want to stay at home. And of course, Tennessee, Jackson, that's a long way from home anyway. I mean, but he had a lot of friends and family that stayed there, that was close to him, and then his teammates. We all was like family, and that's what he build off of. And to this day, he's still that way, man. I mean, people, when you meet Al, it shocks you, man, how genuine he is, man. It's it's not like how everybody expect for most of the athletes just to be, in a sense, a little cocky, a little stuck up, or with Al, you'd be afraid to just walk up to Al because you know how Al was. I mean, that bulldog look, or he just had that mean streak, and off the field, hey, it's a big teddy bear, man. But he's a good guy, man. I mean, he was one of the best leaders I ever been around, hands down, all over around anybody I ever played with. You know, I mean, he did everything to motivate you, it didn't matter what it was.
Now, what was the story I'd heard, or maybe that he had a nice little halftime talk too at the SEC championship game, maybe against, was it Auburn or was it Mississippi State? Did he have a really nice talk to the team during halftime of one of those games?
Both. Hey, I'll tell you, man, he was what I call the defensive coach leader on that field, man. He knew everything it took to motivate you. I mean, he didn't care if it was chewing you out or just, making you feel bad or a situation, but build you back up at the same time. And he meant well everything he did. We all knew that, though. I mean, it didn't matter if he cursed you out, called you out your name. We knew what Al was saying. And you can go all the way to the NFL. They'll tell you the exact same thing about Al.
Yeah. Who was a guy maybe on the on the team in '98 who was maybe an unsung guy that didn't maybe get to play a lot in pub, but kind of was the practiced and kind of did that? Might be somebody that that fans may not, would be a guy like Bernie Veazey
I'll tell you this here. There's one guy that's very underrated that never really gets spoken about, and this man was probably the strongest person on our team. His name was Ron Green.
Ron Green, defensive lineman, right?
Ooh, man. Yes. 55, man. Ron still holds the squat record as a freshman with 850 pounds. As a freshman, and they told him to stop.
My goodness.
Ron was warming up with 405 as a freshman on the bench. Ron was just one of those freak of natures. He had that low center of gravity where you couldn't move him. And injuries is what caught up with Ron too, because if he wouldn't have been injured, we'd have heard a lot about him in the professional ranks as well. Ron did a lot for Tennessee when he was there. No one realized that. You may have not seen him like the ending big play of the game, but there's times where Ron had 2 or 3 sacks or 4 or 5 tackles for loss. He was a monster, man.
Yeah, that's. I remember we're number 55.
Yes.
So next thing I want to ask you about is, if you can, describe the feeling in Tempe when T. Martin takes a knee. That feeling right there.
It was still, and I'm gonna be honest with you, and I can probably speak for the majority of the team, man. Winning the national championship, you think it's the most exciting thing, the best thing ever. But with all of us, I know defensively, we felt like we had another game to play because this games was so easy that we just beat Florida State, and we thought they was supposed to be the greatest team ever. It felt like we still had a game to play next week. That's how it felt. But the emotions, it didn't really hit us until we got back to Knoxville and they celebrated that we won a national championship.
Yeah.
But it was a great experience. I mean, it could have been better if we had a team that were, I guess I understand that you have an opponent and they didn't really want to socialize with you with, like, the games and stuff that you have, that you compete in, like the pie eating contest or the dunking in the pool or something. Well, they didn't want to do that with us. They said it was too good for us.
Oh,
Oh, when I say Mr. Al Wilson heard that, oh man, it's time to get on the bus. Let's go back to the hotel. It's time to get in the film room, baby.
I bring up this point about the '90s with Tennessee, and especially the time you were there. If they had the Final Four back then, the college football playoff, the Final Four back then, 95, 7, 8, possibly 9. Tennessee's in it, and you can go back to, in the early 80, maybe 89, 90 of those, and then 2001 probably into the SEC championship. There's a span there of about 12 years where legitimately, well, and then I guess your 4 years, you would have probably played in three out of your 5 years there, I guess, would have played in the Final Four.
Yes.
And it's funny how now, look back, and now Alabama's got that, what they've done has been incredible. But if you go and now you're talking 3 Final Fours in a 5 year, then, that's, they could have been, former could have had more national championships and that. Now it's just it's a different college football is a different landscape now, with everything.
Yeah, it's changed a whole lot. I mean, a lot of us, we wished we had that situation, but they have watered it down so much where it's not the same. It's not as fun as it used to be. It's not like back when college football was college football.
Well, also Saturday, and as a fan, you felt it the whole week because that was, the national championship was gone.
Because see, the one thing that I wish they put back in place to make these teams earn their spots in the situation is, if Clemson would have lost last week, they would have dropped to number 4.
Yeah, yeah.
Back in my day, if Clemson would have lost to that team, they would have been receiving votes.
Yeah. Well, with Clemson this week, with Lawrence not playing, they could get beat by Notre Dame, and they're still probably going to be in.
Yes. And that's what I'm saying. Like, they don't give the teams that are behind them, undefeated or whatever, the opportunity to have that same opportunity to play in that game. And that's what made it so much better back then, because there are some teams that will give Clemson some mismatches and they will get a run for their money. There are some teams that have 2 or 3 losses that give Bama a run for their money. It's just the situations, the plays, the players. There's so much that goes in X's and O's that, God, I wish I was playing now. There would be no such thing as an undefeated Alabama.
Yeah, because you were 5-0.
Undefeated.
Undefeated, 5-0, 5 cigars.
Undefeated, man.
Gotta get that back, man. My cigar is sitting there. I believe it's 11 years old now.
Hey, I think if I light mine right now, it'll go up in flames and go. Whoosh.
Yeah, and then I think that they got the right guy. Just got to give him time, and
Yes, that's true.
And just give him time and let him recruit guys like you in there, and get and just be patient.
Yeah.
Because and I'm just a fan, but just from a football standpoint, I don't know that they could get anybody any better. Drawing it up and teaching and coaching the game on the field and teaching the game. I don't know that they could have got any better at the situation with everything happened. The fact they ended up with him, I think they were fortunate to get him.
Well, see, this is what I think about the hire. I think it's the first hire that we've gotten that was a winning hire since Coach Former. The one thing that Tennessee has yet to do before that was find a coach that replaced a winning coach. Let's go get a coach that has a winning record, that's been winning in college, or understand what it takes to win in college. Even when we got Coach Kiffin. Coach Kiffin, he would have been a great coach if he would have stuck it out. But Coach Kiffin shouldn't have never been hired at Tennessee.
Right. Not at that point in his career.
No, he should have never got that opportunity. We should have been hiring someone that was winning at any other conference or any conference that we have at a defensive coordinator, O coordinator, or anything. We could have easily did that, but we didn't. We didn't. We haven't up until Pruitt. He's the first winning coach that we have actually hired that knows how to win. Now, I know everybody is getting, tired of the situation or whatever, but there's some things that we're missing that everybody don't understand when it comes to football players, man. We still need some offensive linemen.
Yeah.
We still need some defensive linemen. We still need some LBs. We still need some DBs. We need some wide receivers. We actually need a couple of coaches. We need some bigger running backs.
Yeah.
We need a lot, man. It's going to take another recruiting class to get what I call competing in the SEC. Yes, we're playing in the SEC right now, but we're not doing what I say physically matching up with someone. And after the game, they say, man, whew, y'all gave it to us, man, but y'all lost. But if we lose, you're going to feel me.
Yeah.
That's the way it has to be played up until we can win what I call our one-on-one battles at every position. We're going to be in for a long road. And people don't understand that, a lot of people say, then how did Georgia end up doing that with Kirby Smart? Well, you got to understand, man, hey, Kirby Smart inherited.
He took over a pretty good situation. He took over like 3 years before. They played Alabama's best team during this run was probably the 11 Alabama team. But Georgia played them in Atlanta, and then it was one play away from beating maybe the best Alabama team of this run. Kirby took over a very, very good situation now. It's a lot. It's Apple. It's not really fair to compare. And as we were talking about earlier about Coach Pruitt giving him time, he's got to get time for the depth so you can prepare and practice. Or when a guy goes out 4 or 5 plays because of an injury, you got to have another guy in there that's just as good.
Yes.
He's got to have depth. In 3 years at it, which really he's only had 2 full recruiting classes.
Yes.
Not enough. He's got to get, I always say in our podcast, I'm not judging anything till year 5 with him because the situation he inherited, I want these fellas that he's got that are sophomores to be seniors, and then let's see how we tee it up.
Yes.
And our fans are crazy, and they're year 3, and why this and that. You gotta be patient because
Sure. Hell, and I'll give everybody an example with what you're telling them about depth charts. Put it like this here: Albert Hainsworth and John Henderson were third streamers.
Oh, y'all see, that's too. Think about that.
Where do that happen at?
Think about that. That's amazing.
That's the type of talent that I'm talking about. These guys had to wait to their turn to be able to get in the game because the guys that was up front, they was just that good. Most of us, if it wasn't for injuries, we would be in the NFL playing pro ball as well. But when I told Albert Hainsworth and John Henderson, I told those guys, I said, man, when y'all get up here, y'all gonna hurt somebody, man. You guys are 6'8", 330. If y'all learn y'all pad leverage, there won't be one player in the SEC that can block y'all. Oh man, and they did every bit of that. That's why they were first round draft picks.
Yeah, they were. And I remember on Henderson was when he was in high school at Pearl Cone. I believe I was in high school. They did an article. And this was like when he was in 8th grade, called him Baby Shaq because he played basketball too.
Yes.
And they played tight end, but I really remember that was the first time he'd heard of John Henderson. Was he referred to as Baby Shaq? And, and that's amazing. And you think about that of fans who the win now, like no, it's going to take time. You got to put.
It is. It's going to take time. And I mean, I even go even to the offensive side of the ball. Jason Witten played behind me at defensive end.
Yeah, wow.
That's how deep we were on the offensive side of the ball back then. That Jason was playing defense.
Yeah.
Talking about all American tight end.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what you just got to get back to. And, and I agree on the big backs, but Gray runs well, runs hard. I think they are missing a big back, though, to get in, run in between the tackles that can take the hits. Because if people think, too, I hear this a lot about breaking and making long runs and explosive runs. Yeah, those are great. But those, to me, don't happen as much in the SEC. No. What you got to have is that guy that gets efficient 3-yard runs, efficient 2-yard runs, that in the third quarter, he leans on you and bodies you up. Those become efficient 6-yard runs, efficient 8-yard runs over and over, and then, of course, you can, have a guy that, like Nick Chubb, maybe, I guess. I'm trying to think of one that can pop one. But, you think about it, you don't see a lot of long runs, explosive runs in the SEC anymore, but they do. It seems like they have trouble maybe breaking tackles at the second level. You would know more than me definitely about that, but yeah.
Well, I mean, it's different now, man. The defense is now, oh gosh, man, everybody is fast, man, and they're big and athletic. You got 11 guys, like let's say Alabama right now on defense. You basically have 11 first-round draft picks that's starting right now that a team can say, we can use you right now. And if you don't have a back that's prepared with a good lower level, really strong legs, and what I mean by that, and you hear Coach Pruitt saying it right now. He's saying that if we can't break tackles and make plays, we're in trouble because our backs are really small. They should be able to win their one-on-one battles out there in the open as a running back over a DB. And here, I'll give you something that Gerald Riggs told me and my partner on the show last year. He said that when he was recruited as a running back, he knew that he had 4 yards because the coach told him, my offensive line going to get you 4 yards. After that, you got to get your own. And if you can't get your own after 4 yards, you're going to be over there on that pine until we find someone that can. Yeah. That's the difference in today's model of coaching kids. And that's the one thing that Mr. Eric Westmoreland said, that the best place to get your mind right is ride that pine. Yeah. It'll make the best player become, or the worst player become the best player on that bench.
Eric Westmoreland is probably one of the best high school football players I ever saw in person as a running back in Marion County. The state championship game, the first play of scrimmage, he goes touchdown. I think, and you may don't know the stat, but I think his, probably like all successful guys, his high school career, he may only lost 1 game. I think they went like 45-1 or a crazy, deal at Marion County when he was there. Like yourself, you're talking about you don't lose,
Yes, and we had a whole lot of guys like that. I remember we all comparing high school highlights and stuff. It would be funny, man, because we all winners, You had Jermaine Copeland, you got these guys, we all just won state championships and stuff. And, Pillis Price, and all these, it would be funny, man, just trying to compare highlights. I remember when they showed my highlights to them, and of course, I didn't know I had good highlights. I just thought I was knocking people out. And I remember them put up on the front of the screen, they said, Billy Ratliff's senior year, 222 tackles. And then they said 198 solo. They said, what? Solo? And it was just, man, we was just monsters back then. We was what they call today. You had a bunch of dogs on that team that really wanted to win. They understood what it take. And our coaches, man, they prepared us well. That's the first and foremost thing that you got to have is good coaches, man. We had a bunch of coaches that I tell everybody that you got to have these guys, man. You got to have what I call player coaches, man. Guys that can relate with any kid, no matter who they are, where they come from. They know what it takes to motivate those kids. And I think they have those guys over there. I really do. I just think that they haven't got the kids that they're used to teaching to make it work. And I think it's gonna happen. I think it's gonna happen. But I think they're gonna have to get rid of the guy that I think is sabotaging my team, man. I think he's still mad at us from beating Florida State.
No, yeah.
I'm just messing, man.
Mad at Oklahoma too, because I'm not so sure they crossed the 50 that night against.
Oh gosh, man. I mean, it makes me mad, man, because I know those guys are better than that, man. They make, and I know that they don't trust the kids in the game with some of the plays and stuff. But you saw last game when they opened up the playbook, throwing it down the field. They made Bama look like hold on now, they doing this against Bama.
Yeah.
And you mean to tell me we couldn't do that against Kentucky? Come on, guys.
Who was a coach, real quick? You mentioned, let's take out Coach Foreman, but who was an assistant coach? It could have been position coach or whatever, but that was kind of that guy for you. Who was during your time at Tennessee? Who was a guy that was kind of the players' coach, or the guy that maybe you still talk to today? Who would that coach be?
Be Dan Brooks. Dan Brooks, man, he made you feel like your son, man. He was still to this day. He texts me happy birthday. He wished me Merry Christmas, Happy Thanksgiving, Happy Father's Day. To this day, man, he does all of us like that. I mean, he don't forget anybody, And I tell you how deep it goes, and people don't realize this here. He created the burn orange over that Clemson defensive lineman, man, where you saw. He created something over there, and it's still going to this day, the D lineman. When you plant the seed like that, it continues. And that's one special guy that I think everybody needs, man. He is old school, but he knows how to make you get out there in those shoes, man. He's good, man. I used to love all his little sayings. Every day he had one different. I mean, he knows when you went out at night, had a good time. He'll tell you something like, hey, guys, hey, you can fly with the owls at night, but you're going to soar with the eagles this morning.
Soar with the Eagles in the morning, that's for sure.
Yes.
Give me a score for Saturday, man. I've told these guys around here, I think that I've said for 3 weeks, I think Tennessee's going to beat Arkansas just because they're coming off of a bye. You're fresh, you're healthy. I think that they're going to, well, like you was talking about, I think there's a mismatch on the Tennessee's offensive line, Arkansas's defensive line. I think Tennessee rushes for over 200, well over 200. I think they win the game 34-23, something like that, Coach.
I can see something like that. I know they'll win the game. It just depends on how they use the offensive scheme. If they do what I've been begging them to do, is use the quick game with the receivers, give them the ball, let them make a play. If they don't trust JG to throw the ball down the field, or give them some quick stuff to make his teammates make plays. Because everybody's going to press us all year long. And that's when we got to throw the ball down the field. And Arkansas, they look good this year, man. Those guys have done a great job of getting those guys together. And as you see, Coach, he got those guys playing well, man. And they're playing fundamentally sound. That's why you see them doing great against the teams they're playing. Now, they still have what I'm going to say. They need a couple more recruiting classes. You're talking about a team that hasn't won but 2-3 games last few years. You don't become great overnight, and I'm telling you, it's still there. I mean, these kids have won some games they shouldn't have won, and they got motivation. Motivation always will make that heart beat fast every time, man. And that's what Tennessee is missing. I think we'll get it done. I'm looking at the score being about what you said. They're about 34-17 or something like that. I think it's going to be we're going to beat them by more than 2 touchdowns. I think we'll get the run game going early where we can start using some play action down the field, kind of give a snippet of what we've been doing. I hope we get away from how I call it, the garbage team plays where you're doing all these reverses and flea flickers and things like that. I call that the powder blue team. And
Because I'm long and I text my buddies during the game, and I'm like, because I'm a fan of old school football. I wish they'd get the out formation, but I text them all the time. I said, I swear, just come out and run it 3 times in a row, see what happens.
yes,
And just run it 3 times in a row. Let's see what happens. And my buddies get tired of me texting them that over and over. But I wish a part of me wished that they would still run under center, run some I formation, you know, and then have to be in the I. Just get under center with 2 tight ends, you know, 13 personnel, you know, shift to try to get some big guys in there and just commit and be the most physical team they can be, you know. And then that would maybe open up some deep shots and play action. But it's been frustrating so far to watch a lack of identity maybe on offense.
yes, and that's what you said it perfectly there. That's what they're missing. We have yet to find a leader on that team yet. You know, we accidentally got one, and he did it last year. He didn't really want to do it, and that's where Jawan Jennings took it up to become a leader. The leader that needs to speak up right now for that team is Trey. Trey needs to speak up. You know, he's the face of everything that they're doing right now in the media, everything. And right now, he is the All American. He may not be as vocal as we think he should be, but he can be solid and still do that. He can be telling coach, hey, run it behind me.
Yeah, right behind me. I got you this
I
time.
got this here. We need 3 yards. I got it. Run it behind me.
Yeah.
And that's what it's going to take. You know what I mean? I know how the coaches are. I mean, they have broke the kids down and they're building them back up, and the kids are not the same as we were back then. Like, you know, there was one thing that Coach Former told each one of us and our parents, and we stuck to that identity. And he told our parents, we're going to recruit your child. We're going to teach him how to become a man, and we're going to treat him like a man. And when he told us that, we took that to heart. We felt like if he told us to do something, we feel like we should be able to say, Coach, why should we do that if we think that this will work better? And then he'll tell us the logic behind it, and we'll go with it. And now, when you got coaches these days, man, that silence the kid and just it's just their way or no way, it's hard to teach people that stuff. Because when I read the story that Trey said the other day, where he haven't hit his full potential, what you waiting on, big fella? And that goes back to development, you know, man. If the kids don't feel like the coaches are developing them, they say stuff like that because no, Trey haven't got any better. You know, he's been out quite a bit, but that's why I keep blaming on the O-line coach. If he can't,
When you know you talked about that one coach earlier, that's going to be interesting how that's handled, because that is a position that position coach probably needs to be looked at pretty strong, in my opinion. But that's you were talking about.
I said it last year.
Quarterback, you know, the old FSU quarterback, but that's you know, because you don't. I mean, you got 5-star, 4-star, 5-star, 5-star, 7th-year senior. You know, you got those fellas up front, and you should be able to go and say, all right, Kentucky, I'm running right here 40 times, you know, and you're not going to do anything about it. You know, but yeah, so that's probably a position coach too that it's going to be interesting how that's handled.
Well, you know how it is when it comes to coaching, man. I mean, I didn't realize how hard coaching was until I got into coaching a couple of years,
Oh, I know.
and you know, of course, you know, you can tell the kid to do something, he'll do something totally different and mess everything. Or tell him to go left, tell him right, and he goes straight and mess everything up. And then you also got some coaches that don't want to do what they need to do is customize these kids to their system. If the system ain't working, what you're doing, you got to make it work for the kids that you got. You know, if you can't pass block with these guys, you need to be, like you said, you need to be running it 3 straight times until they get tired of running that play.
Yeah, absolutely. Because your job as a coach is to put guys in the best situation to succeed.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't matter what that is. And I hope going forward they do create an identity. The last 5 games what they're going to be on offense and kind of build a base of what Pruitt wants them to be defensively and fast and physical. And I get it and all that. But, I think they lack some coverage things in the back end and maybe on the outside at linebacker, maybe, and some coverage games. And then, of course, defensive line's got to get better. But we'll see. And, I think they can maybe, what do you think, 3-2 down the stretch? 4-1? What do you think?
This year?
The last 5 games, it should be Vanderbilt, Arkansas, and then that's going to leave Florida, Auburn, and Texas A&M. By the way, I'm calling that one. Tennessee will upset A&M in Knoxville.
Oh man, those are the only games where our schedule was built to win this year.
Mm-hmm.
With the amount of home games we had versus the away games, with the big games being home games, it's totally different how our kids are today, that they don't understand that the whole old school where we must protect this house. And when you're getting beat the way you're getting beat at home, it's tough. But I can see the kids going 4-1 because I think this off week it helped big time.
Yeah.
And the coaches had a chance to go back and realize what I'm saying that they should have been doing is customize both sides of the ball to what kids they have. And they see some of the kids, the receivers that are getting wide open, the young kids that have to be out there. And they starting to realize that they got to use these guys, man. They seeing JG do these things in practice. Well, they're not using what they do with JG in practice. I mean, they can't blame it on the quarterbacks every single time, because if you go look at what we saw when they did bench JG, when they brought the backups in,
Yeah.
they looked identical. And the thing is, this is what I tell people about quarterbacks and where anything that you coach, when you become a coach, you teach kids to be identical to what the mechanics are, the throwing, the motions, the steps, everything exactly the same. Now, mentally, it can be a little bit more challenging, but I don't see that there will be any difference if they put a different quarterback in, because those backup quarterbacks know who's the best quarterback.
Right. And Pruitt is not going to not play the best guy that gives him a chance.
No, not at all. Not at all.
He's not going to just say, right. If he runs him out there, he really thinks he gives him the best chance to win.
Because the things I heard about the backups from a certain teammate is bad, man.
Yeah.
So I really know why JG's playing. I mean, and people this is what I'm going to put this here out there. Watch when this man get picked up by one of these teams next year in the league, and you guys see what I told people about Nathan Peterman and all that stuff. They see things in these guys that make them good. And Tennessee just don't use them the same. I mean, they're not pro quarterbacks yet. They have to work with systems and stuff. Now, if they get what Joe Burrows got last year at LSU, a quarterback coach that teaches them how to do what Drew Brees do, it's totally different, man, when you got a coach, man. It's totally different.
And I'm not one of those fans or guys that gets completely caught up in recruiting. I follow it. But, to me, let the kid get on campus and get through a semester of school and avoid the girls for a semester. And let's see, and let's hit somebody at an SEC school before you tell me how good he is. But if you turn on the film of the quarterback from Texas, Salter, that's coming next year, there's a lot to like about him coming in, that young guy that they signed from Texas. And, it may be a situation where he walks right in and has a legit chance to play day one, and then a recruiting guy from Martin Westview, who they may get to early reclassify to maybe join this class. That would be interesting, to have that. So then that's what I say. Pruitt's not going to not play the best guy,
Oh, yes. And now when he gets on campus, Now, when you start talking about he need to be put in the game, now I can vouch for you because this is the difference between that, coach. When you got a kid coming from the winning program that's playing at high level football and Texas, come on, man. Whew, this is pretty much JUCO football out there, man. You got a lot of kids that used to winning and at high levels and they running collegiate offense already. It's different. I understand that they see Harrison Bailey did a great job, and he did a good job. And I mean, right now he's way behind. He's way behind. People, if you understand and know how college is, it's a whole lot more complex for a quarterback in college. The playbook you got to learn in college is totally different from the pro playbook. Pro is smaller than that college playbook, man. And his kid, you talking about the pressure that he has. Even if he got in the game, his heart is beating so fast. He's gonna make that mistake first, and if he throw a pick based off how we been getting hit with offensive line, you knock a lot of confidence out of a kid that has been great all his life. So I like what Pruitt is doing right now. I think if Pruitt just continue doing what he's doing, we're gonna be fine, man. I mean, next year is the year I say you'll see the competitions happen.
And that would be, that he would be on schedule of that. What he's got to avoid is having more games like Kentucky.
Yeah, I don't see that anymore. I don't see that anymore. I think he's gonna have to open it up, and because right now you're losing recruits. If you continue to do this here, get beat to Kentucky, that kid that was coming from Kentucky to Tennessee, now guess where he's going? He's staying home at Kentucky. That kid that was going to Alabama and he jumped ship because he saw that he had a position that he can come take over here, but we losing to these teams here. I don't want to lose. I want a championship. That's what recruiting is, man. Kids want to win.
Right. They want to win and see that result. And so that's what I'm saying. If they could at least 3-2 down the stretch, and it's how they are in the 3-2. It's the two. If they only will lose 1 or 2 games. Oh, if they want to win all of them, go for it. I'm not going to argue. Go 5-0. But if you lose a game or 2, how do you lose that game? Are you ultra competitive in the game? Do you lose in the last second to maybe a Texas A&M that may be perceived a little better than you, to be better, maybe. But do they lose to Florida 31-30, not 31-3? It's how they lose those games to give them some momentum in recruiting going into next year. And then we can all plan to go to the Final Four if COVID's over in Indianapolis in March, because the basketball team is headed there.
Yes. I'm with you there, man. I'm with you there. You said it perfect, man. I mean, we got to compete, man. If the kids are competing like I think they should be, the way they're being coached, they're running to the ball, they're making plays, or just at least just not getting beat. That's the one thing that I can't accept. I can't accept defeat. Like I told you, if I'm going to lose, you're going to feel me come tomorrow. When you go to the training room, you're going to tell those coaches, man, oh my God, man, I don't know how we did it. We barely pulled it off. That's what I want to hear people saying about me. If we lose, you're going to know that you didn't get this that easy.
That's what, and I used to tell guys, tell my players this. My mom would always call me, and if you got Mom, you got me. She would always say, "We can't win them all." My response was, "No, but I got to win the next one." You might get me today, but
exactly.
if my gets in that shower in the morning, I'm going to come out and kick somebody's rear end. That's the the mentality. I think of course he's probably wanting to get, but I had to give a shout out to my mom. She's probably going to watch this as soon as it's posted. Actually, they live in Knoxville as well. So I can't thank you enough for taking time.
Anytime, man.
Man, I cannot thank you enough. And I'll say this again. I think to me, it's probably the happiest moment of my senior year of high school. That's telling you how big it was. But people say that, there's all kind of greatest plays in Tennessee history, and it's one of them, and there's all kind of favorite plays. It's the most significant football play in Tennessee history. And man, for you to take time this week, they're playing Arkansas, to come on. And dude, I have really enjoyed what I thought was 15 minutes, ended up being well over an hour. And I can't thank you enough, man.
Hey, man, anytime. Hey, you need me and I'm here for you, man.
All right. Thanks again, buddy. See you
All
later.
right. Take care.